this presentation is a result of some ongoing work that I'm doing with Gartner, the Enterprise Architecture Group within Gartner, and Penn State has developed an executive education program that we've offered for the last few years. And also some work that I'm doing with Oracle Corporation. Oracle, as many organizations today, are struggling with how to make an effective business case to their current client base and prospective clients for service-oriented architecture. So we've gotten together and we're creating a series of courses, one of which focuses on today's topic around creating the business case for service-oriented architecture. And then a second topic, which will be a topic of a future webinar, is how to determine where to start with SOA initiatives in the organization. There's so many different places to start. How do you make sure you're picking the right area where you're going to get the most bang for your buck? And how do you develop kind of an evolutionary enterprise-wide plan for SOA? But today's topic is the business case for service-oriented architecture. So a good way to start would be from this quote from Albert Einstein, especially the second part of the quote, where not everything that counts can be counted. I think this is so true with enterprise architecture and service-oriented architecture, that a lot of the benefits that we see attributed to SOA are tough to quantify, and we'll talk about some of those benefits. Especially when you look at the nature of SOA projects once they move beyond the individual business unit, where we're crossing traditional silos and organizations, and oftentimes the budgets do not cross those silos. And I've worked with organizations where they've had SOA initiatives pretty much come to a halt or at least stall for a period of time for budgetary reasons, where there was no enterprise-wide funding mechanism for SOA initiatives, and they couldn't agree on who was going to fund what, so things stalled. So what I'd like to do today is kind of set the agenda. I'd like to start with talking about some of the items that comprise the business case for SOA. Some of them are quantifiable, some are non-quantifiable, but I think all of them, we need to discuss them in whole to formulate a comprehensive business case for SOA. And then discuss some possible metrics to use as part of this business case, and discuss a process for calculating a return on investment for SOA, which isn't that easy to do. But I want to talk about a high-level process that could help you in this process, if ROI is something that's important to your organization. And then strategies for adoption and buy-in of service-oriented architecture. And okay, let's start with return on investment. I personally am not a huge fan of ROI as a measure for service-oriented architecture projects, or many projects, IT-related projects or otherwise. Besides having a background in information technology, I also have an MBA in MIS and finance, and I don't think I need to tell you folks that you can make an ROI. As these quotes imply, 98% of companies use intuition or guesswork to calculate ROIs. So you can make ROIs come out in almost any way that you want to, and you can spend a lot of time doing it. But many organizations today do use ROI as their primary, or one of their primary measures for projects. So we need to discuss ROI in the context of SOA, which we will do later on in the presentation. A little bit more on ROI. I thought this quote was good as well, taken recently from CIO Magazine. And what we're going to try to do here is develop a more comprehensive view of ROI, not just the quantifiable measures, but also some of the non-quantifiable things that we either need to try to put some type of rough metric around, or we at least need to articulate as part of our business case, and try to develop a more comprehensive and simplified framework for understanding SOA's return on investment. Okay, when we look at some of the information from our friends at Gartner, we look at there we go. Sorry about that. We look at four primary categories that we'll discuss in more detail, attributed to the value proposition of SOA. Reduced integration expense. In today's world of mergers and acquisitions, I hear from many companies about the difficulty extreme difficulty in integrating systems and processes from acquired companies, and even companies where we're doing strategic joint ventures, etc. Many companies are looking at SOA as a long-term way to ease this integration expense. Even small, mid-sized businesses. I work with a number of SMBs, and small, mid-sized businesses are acquiring and partnering with companies around the globe, and they have extreme issues, just as we see in large companies, with integrating systems. And so even your small, mid-sized business space is looking at SOA as a possible long-term solution to the integration challenges. Asset reuse, with the asset reuse that's inherent in SOA through the reuse of services, it can be a huge savings if it's done correctly. However, I see many organizations that don't do SOA correctly, and you have kind of this wild west of web services where there's no governance and centralization around the deployment and use of web services, so they don't achieve the promise of reuse, or at least not as fully as it could be done. We'll talk about this a bit more in the presentation. Agility is something that we hear over and over and over again associated with service-oriented architecture. And we're going to talk a lot more about agility. And while I truly believe that SOA has the potential to create enterprise agility, I think it's looked at skeptically by many at the C-level today. This isn't the first time that we've heard these different benefits attributed to a technology. And those of you that have been around for a while, you know this. With distributed objects, for example, Quorum.com, we heard the same arguments. So I think you're starting to get skepticism, and perhaps rightfully so, from many at the C-level, that we've heard this before, that the past initiative or past technology didn't deliver on these promises, so why is this different? So I think we have a challenge, and I think the people I work with at Oracle see this on a regular basis as well, a challenge in convincing the C-level folks that this is different. This is a new paradigm. This is a new way of thinking about the organization, the business processes, as well as the technology. The last point on this slide, I think, is, for me, I think is one of the most important attribute or value proposition associated with SOA, and that's the visibility into the business processes and the transparency that needs to happen in order to do SOA correctly. One of the first steps is to understand and model your business processes. So I think the understanding of the business and the process discipline that SOA mandates, if you do it correctly, is beneficial. It's extremely beneficial. For the first time, I've seen organizations that truly understand and have streamlined their business processes as a result of SOA initiatives. So, and I can't overemphasize the importance of the process visibility and transparency to the organization. Okay, when we look at benefits attributed to SOA projects, some of the benefits that we've just described, the improved flexibility, decreased costs, these benefits, though, are not assured. Just because you start using web services, that doesn't mean that that you're going to achieve these benefits. In fact, I've seen examples from different corporations where they didn't put the technical and non-technical foundations in place attributed to SOA, and didn't have the governance structures and have a good plan for where to start with SOA and how to evolve SOA in the organization, and they just essentially used web services to connect some applications together, and they didn't get the range of benefits and to the degree that they were expecting, and in some cases it actually cost them quite a bit of money, and they weren't able to justify the investment. So these benefits are not should not be taken for granted that just because you're using web services that eventually you're going to get these benefits. It needs to be a more comprehensive approach.